Mr. Raskin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I want to first recognize a wonderful constituent, Andrea Chambly, who's here today. She lost her husband, John McNamara, in the terrible massacre that took place in Annapolis. He was a reporter and a celebrated editor of the Capital Gazette. Thank you for joining us, Andrea. And you stand for hundreds of people here today who've lost family members and friends, and hundreds of thousands across the country who are begging us to do something. Mr. Nadler, thank you for this hearing, which is extraordinary because it's the first hearing on gun violence in more than 8 years in the House of Representatives. In that time, we've seen not only the daily mounting gruesome death toll in every community across America, where 96 people die from gun violence every day, and 246 every day are shot and wounded, where 8 children or teens die from gun violence every day, and where 39 young people are shot and wounded. But over the last 8 years, we've seen 6 of the 10 worst gun massacres in the history of the United States of America. The Las Vegas massacre with 58 dead, the Pulse nightclub massacre with 49 dead, Sandy Hook, 20 kids and 6 grown-ups, Stoneman Douglas, 17 adults, and on and on. And to the wonderful people who've assembled here today, taking time off from school, off from work to come to bear witness to the people you've lost in your lives, I want to say that you are the repositories of the memories of your loved ones, but we are the repositories of the legislative memories of what has happened here. And we must never forget. I've only been here for 2 years, but I want to tell you in that time, I saw several of those massacres, including the Vegas massacre and the Stoneman Douglas massacre, and we had not a single hearing on a universal criminal background check. We had 3 hearings in this committee with Diamond and Silk to talk about imaginary offenses online. And they brought us 2 bills. One, the aforementioned bill, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, a complete. It has nothing to do with reciprocity. It would demolish every state's concealed carry law so that if you can get a gun in the most permissive state in the union, which I think is still Florida, where 1.5 million people have the right to carry a loaded concealed weapon, then you can go anywhere in the country. That's what they brought us. Oh, and they brought us one other bill, which was to legalize silencers in America. That sounds not like a common sense public safety agenda. That sounds like a mafia agenda to legalize silencers across the country. That is what we have dealt with in this committee, which is why today is such a remarkable breath of fresh air, and why Americans across the country are looking at the House of Representatives with hope today. Now, the universal criminal background check is backed by more than 95% of the American people, the vast majority of Democrats, the vast majority of Republicans, independents, gun owners. Everybody thinks that you should not be able to purchase a firearm in America if you can't pass a simple criminal and mental background check. So we're screening out felons and fugitives, people who are violently unstable, undocumented aliens. These are the people that we're trying to catch. And what do we hear from the other side? We hear, well, this punishes law-abiding people. You should go after the criminals. That's precisely what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep them from getting guns in the first place. We are trying to close the loopholes here today. Now, we're hearing that there's a lot of Second Amendment verbiage floating around the room, and yet I have yet to hear a single argument that this legislation in H.R. 8 is unconstitutional. Not one. Now, the distinguished ranking member of the committee, I think, was offended by the gentleman from New York's line of questioning about Professor Malcolm's background and the character of her professorship at George Mason. Fine, if you're not interested in trying to determine the sources of the income for her chairmanship, let's leave that to the side. Let's go to the content of Professor Malcolm. Professor Malcolm, I'm a fellow professor of constitutional law, so I was all excited for your testimony because before I was a member of Congress, I loved nothing more than to be able to do a legal analysis and bring it to Congress and say, here's my understanding of what the law is. But I searched in vain your entire testimony for any legal analysis of the Second Amendment constitutionality of H.R. 8. And I'm wondering, have you written a separate law review article or a separate legal analysis? Because I understand this is more of a policy statement.
I have not written an analysis of this particular bill, but I would like to say that I deeply resent the assertion that I am a wholly owned subsidiary.
I didn't say anything about that.
I know you didn't.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to reclaim my time because we have very little time here. Let me go to this question. Do you have an opinion As the Second Amendment chairholder at the George Mason Antonin Scalia School of Law, do you have a legal opinion that you have formed, even without an analysis that's written, as to the constitutionality of H.R. 8?
I have a legal opinion that the constitutional right that is associated with the instant background check as it now stands is constitutional. It just doesn't work very well.
Okay, so
it doesn't work
all right,
very
well,
well
we'll go to the ATF for their thoughts on that. But you're saying, as a constitutional matter, the legislation before us is perfectly constitutional today. And Dr. Sakran, do you agree with that? That H.R. 8 is perfectly constitutional?
I'm not a lawyer, and I'm here in my capacity as a trauma surgeon. But we currently have licensing that is actually evaluating people for background checks. So this is just talking about ensuring we close those loopholes and expand that to the rest of the public. So
okay, and it doesn't deny anybody the right to access a gun who has a Second Amendment right to get one. It's only the people that Justice Scalia enumerated in the Heller decision as being not eligible because they might be mentally defective or felons or fugitives and so on, right?
correct.
Okay. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.